Tensions are quickly rising in the Middle East as Kurdistan finally wants their independence. After the Syrian civil war, Syria has still been unstable and is prone to collapsing. In 2036, Syria pulls out the final straw. Syria collapses into a civil war, and Kurdistan also spreads over into Iraq. ISIS also returns, taking a good chunk of Syria and part of western Iraq. Due to all the rebellion, the rest of Syria and a good chunk of Iraq collapse. Kurdistan also spreads over into Iran and Turkey, spreading two other major alliances into the war. Due to all the rebellion in the Middle East, the WDO sends their own forces into Iraq and Syria, and Turkey also builds a defensive line to contain the Kurdish rebels. Several things are happening all at once. The WDO continues to push into southern Iraq, and Turkey continues to gain more ground in Syria, and they push back against the Kurdish defenses. Also, Iran crosses the Zagros and starts their own invasion of Iraq to gain territory. Turkey finally decides to make peace with Kurdistan, settling on a border just north of the original border. However, the Western forces continue to push into Iraq, getting close to Baghdad, and the Iranians are also getting close to Baghdad. Everyone decides to make peace with Kurdistan, and now they're an official independent country. Israel surprises everyone by going on the offensive and taking Damascus in a matter of days. Iraq is pretty much split in half between an eastern area and a western area, and the rebels have been pushed down to obscurity. Finally, the war is over with an independent Kurdistan, and most of Syria and most of Iraq got occupied by Western forces, but a good chunk of eastern Iraq got occupied by Iranian forces. In the peace treaty, Iran gains some land in eastern Iraq, while Kurdistan gains their independence, and Turkey gains a good chunk of western Syria, as well as Israel annexing more land around southern Syria, as well as Saudi Arabia annexing a good chunk of southern Iraq. Ethiopia and Somaliland decide to unite into one country. On the lunar South Pole, trade networks are set up between all the colonies. A crew of 4 astronauts visit the original Apollo 11 landing site to make it into a tourist attraction to hopefully start making some money. Russia joins China on the moon as they establish their colony. In 2039, the Chinese finally invade Taiwan. They make some land gains in the south and the west of Taiwan, but are stopped by the heavy mountains of central Taiwan. After the invasion of Taiwan, the Chinese populace has had enough. First, Tibet rebels against China, and the Chinese populace starts massive protests in major Chinese cities. And the WDO starts bombing raids over major Chinese cities like Shanghai and Beijing. It looks like a major WDO invasion of the CSTO is coming. Russia sends troops into China to help out with the situation, but before they can do anything, the WDO begins their invasion of China. Xinjiang also rebels, and Mongolia joins the war to take back Inner Mongolia, and the Vietnamese and Indians start an offensive into southern China, while the Koreans invade North Korea, and Japan begins bombing raids over eastern Russia and Beijing. And in central China, the populace rebels against the Chinese government, taking huge swaths of land, including north of Beijing. But as the Americans, Chinese, Russians, North Koreans, and everyone that owns nukes on the entire planet starts firing them at each other, all of the nukes fail because they weren't maintained. China sends a ton of manpower to the front to push back the West, but everyone that arrives just decides, nah, I'm not going to fight this war. Because of that, the Western powers are able to gain a lot more land in eastern China. The rebellion spreads across central China as Western forces enter Beijing. China has been divided between Tibet, the rebellion Xinjiang, and the Western powers, as well as the new rebellion up north, which takes control of a good chunk of eastern Russia and Manchuria. While Russia is distracted in China, the WDO begins their invasion of Russia, called Operation Barbarossa, but better. In the matter of 2 weeks, they push far into Russia. The Finns capture a lot of land in Karelia and Kola, and Baltic and Finnish forces encircle St. Petersburg, and NATO creates 2 flanks to capture Moscow. St. Petersburg falls, and Western forces enter Kazakhstan, and Iran surrenders, as well as they get close to Moscow. Finally, in the year 2040, WDO troops enter Moscow. To clarify, this was not World War III, although it kind of was. This was just the fall of the CSTO. Anyways, time for the peace treaty. Here are the borders of the peace treaty, and here it is, all colored in. In East Asia, there are a lot of changes that you can look at now. And in Europe, you can look at the changes that happen now. Here is the new world map. The WDO decides to invade the last few CSTO countries, as Turkey, Israel, Saudi Arabia, and India pretty much destroy Palestine, Lebanon, Pakistan, and Yemen. In the Americas, the United States takes out Nicaragua and Cuba in one day. The CSTO is officially over, as Pakistan and Yemen fall. After all the war that happened, this is our world map. The WDO dominates the Northern Hemisphere, and they dominate world trade. This is year 2042. On Luna, Russia and China are allowed to keep their colonies, and Artemis base expands. So it's easier to keep track of everything. I'm going to replace the base names, like Artemis base, Apollo base, with the country flags. So I think it looks a bit better. By 2042, the entire Gateway Station is completed. It is 2 times larger than originally expected. But the more space allows for bigger missions to the outer solar system and to the red planet. Back on the moon, South Korea makes their moon colony, and Australia and New Zealand decide to make a combined moon colony under both countries. In Africa, a ton of countries, including Algeria, Egypt, South Africa, the EAF, and the West African Federation, decide to make their own alliance to help with Africa's development. In Latin America, all of the countries there decide to form into one alliance to help with trade, economics, and it is also a military alliance, just like NATO today. In Asia, the same thing happens, with several countries forming together to help with economics, economy, and it is also a military alliance. Who knew? The European Union, as it is today, still exists, but the EU is forming more and more into a country, and more countries in Europe are looking to join this alliance. In 2048, several expansions happen on the lunar South Pole with new trade works, and Brazil makes their moon colony. In 2049, humans make history by landing the first crew of humans on Bennu. Here is Bennu's surface map, I guess. Why not? On Luna, Indonesia makes their moon colony, as humans prepare to go to Mars in the year 2050. On January 23rd, 2050, 2 events happen. 1, the Baltics unite into one country, and a SpaceX Starship launches and docks with Gateway Station. Once it's there, it gathers its crew, resources, food, water, and fuel, and then it sets off to Mars. In the Arabian Peninsula, Kuwait and Qatar decide to unite with Saudi Arabia, and that southern Iraq kind of sort of country that was small and wasn't that stable unites with Kurdistan. Now Kurdistan basically just replaced Iraq. Western Sahara finally unites with Morocco after it basically just kind of disappears. All the officials just escaped into Algeria and yep, it's officially part of Morocco now. After 7 months of travel time, the SpaceX Starship gets in orbit around Mars. There, they land after 2 weeks of remaining in orbit to check all the systems. The crew of 5 astronauts become the first ever people to walk on the Martian surface. There, they establish Mars Base Alpha. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I was not expecting it to be 10 minutes long, but yeah, that was fun to edit. It took me all day. So I want to say thank you to everyone that joined the Alternate Future of the Earth and Space V2 Discord server. They helped me, they, get their thoughts on the video. They vote on stuff. I ask them questions, what they want to see next. So if you want to join, links in the description. And my main server is also there if you want to join. Yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.